The U's horizon moved slowly through the dark space around. Kepler 442. The massive ship was bigger than most cities on Earth. Its metal hull stretched for over 2 miles, and inside carried 5,000 human souls. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking out at the stars through the thick glass windows. "All systems are running normal, Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Parker from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer, a young woman with sharp eyes who never missed anything important. "We should reach the outer patrol zone in 6 hours." Jake nodded and took a sip of his coffee. It was just another routine mission. The Horizon was one of Earth's newest supercarriers, built to patrol the edges of human space and keep watch for any threats. So far, this part of the galaxy had been quiet. Too quiet, some people said. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings on the sensors," called out Ensign Bobby Clark from the scanner station. He was fresh out of the academy, still nervous about everything. "There's something out there, but I can't tell what it is." Jake walked over to look at the scanner display. The screen showed empty space, but there were small blips that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. "Could be space dust, or maybe some old debris," he said. "Keep watching it." But Bobby was right to be worried. Hidden in the darkness, 12 ships were moving closer to the horizon. These were not human ships. They looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh, their hulls covered in a strange material that seemed to breathe. The ships belonged to the Zephyrian Collective, a race of aliens who had been watching human ships for months. On the bridge of the lead alien ship, Admiral Vextar studied the human vessel on his screens. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that changed color when he was excited. His large black eyes showed no mercy as he looked at the prize in front of him. "The humans have no idea we are here," he said to his officers in their clicking language. "This ship will bring us many slaves. 5,000 humans will sell for enough credits to buy a small planet." Vextar had been hunting in this part of space for years. His people were traders, but they traded in living beings. Humans were especially valuable because they were strong and could work in many different environments. The Zephyrians had captured smaller human ships before, but never anything as big as a supercarrier. Back on the horizon, Jake was starting to feel uneasy. Something was wrong, but he could not put his finger on it. He had been a ship captain for 15 years, and his gut feelings had saved his life more than once. "Amy, run a full sensor sweep," he ordered. "I want to know about every piece of rock within 1,000,000 miles of us." Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. The Horizon's powerful sensors reached out into space, searching for anything that did not belong. For a moment, the screen stayed clear. Then, like a nightmare coming to life, 12 alien ships appeared all around them. "Captain," Amy shouted, "we've got 12 unknown vessels surrounding us. They just appeared out of nowhere." Alarms started, ringing throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every deck as the crew rushed to battle stations. Jake felt his heart start to pound, but his voice stayed calm. "All hands, this is the captain. We are now at condition red. All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill." The alien ships moved closer, forming a perfect circle around the horizon. They were much smaller than the human carrier, but Jake could see the weapons on their hulls. Strange organic cannons that looked like they were grown rather than built. "Incoming transmission, Captain," said Communications Officer Linda Hayes. "It's from the lead alien ship." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display flickered, and Admiral Vextar's face appeared. When he spoke, the ship's computer translated his words into English. "Human vessel, you are now prisoners of the Zephyrian Collective. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be processed for sale in the slave markets. Resist, and we will destroy your ship and take what survivors we can find. The bridge fell silent. Every person there knew what this meant. They had heard stories about the Cepharian slave ships, about humans who disappeared and were never seen again. Jake looked at the alien face on the screen. Vextar's black eyes showed nothing but cold calculation. To him, the humans were just cargo to be collected. "I have a message for you, too," Jake said, his voice steady and strong. "The crew of this ship are citizens of Earth, protected by human law and human guns. We don't surrender to anyone, especially not to slavers who think they can hunt us like animals." Vextar's skin changed to a dark red color, showing his anger. "You will regret this choice, human. We have 12 ships to your one. Your weapons cannot harm our bio-armor. Surrender now, and some of your crew might live to see the slave markets." Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who had just been pushed too far. "Let me tell you something about humans," he said. "We don't like bullies. We really don't like slavers. And we absolutely hate it when someone threatens our people." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You want a fight? You've got one." The transmission ended, and the alien ships immediately opened fire. Plasma beams and strange energy weapons hit the Horizon's shields, making the whole ship shake. The lights flickered as the shield generators worked to absorb the attack. "Shields down to 80%, Amy reported. "They're using some kind of bioplasma. Our shields can stop it, but not for long." "Return fire," Jake ordered. "All weapons. Target the lead ship." The Horizon's massive gun batteries opened up, sending streams of laser fire and missile volleys at the alien vessels. But the weapons seemed to have little effect. The alien ship's hulls absorbed the energy and healed themselves, like living tissue. "Our weapons aren't working, Captain," Amy said, her voice tight with worry. "Their bio-armor is too strong." Jake watched as more alien fire hit his ship. The Horizon was tough, but it could not take this kind of punishment forever. They were outnumbered and outgunned. In a straight fight, they would lose. But Jake Morrison had not become a captain by fighting fair. He looked around the bridge at his crew. These people trusted him to get them home alive. He was not going to let them down. "All hands, this is the captain," he said over the ship's communication system. "We are not running away. We are not giving up. These aliens think they can hunt us like prey. They're about to learn what happens when you corner a human being who has nothing left to lose." He turned to his crew. "Send word to all departments. We're going to total war protocol. Everything on this ship is now a weapon. Every room is now a battlefield. We're going to show these slavers that humans don't just fight back. We become the nightmare that keeps monsters awake at night." The battle for the Horizon had begun. The Horizon shook again as another wave of alien fire hit the shields. Captain Jake Morrison grabbed the rail to keep his balance as sparks flew from damaged control panels. The ship's lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance he could hear the sound of metal bending under stress. "Shields down to 60%, Amy called out, her voice tight with worry. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." Jake looked at the tactical display. The 12 alien ships were moving in a slow circle around the Horizon, taking turns to fire their bioplasma weapons. They were playing with the humans, like cats playing with a mouse before the kill. "Sir, incoming message from engineering," said Bobby from his station. "Chief Collins wants to speak with you right away." "Put him through," Jake ordered. The face of Chief Engineer Pete Collins appeared on a side screen. Pete was a big man with gray hair and hands that were always covered in grease. He had been working on starships for 30 years and knew every bolt and wire on the Horizon. "Captain, I need permission to do something crazy," Pete said without any introduction. "These alien weapons are designed to fight normal ships, But this isn't a normal ship anymore. Not if we don't want it to be. What do you have in mind, Pete? Jake asked. I want to reroute the main fusion reactors. Instead of just powering the shields and weapons, I can redirect the energy to other systems. The manufacturing bays, the medical centers, even the food. Processors. We can turn this whole ship into something these aliens have never seen before. Jake understood what Pete was suggesting. It was dangerous and had never been tried before. If something went wrong, they could lose power completely and be sitting ducks. Do it, Jake said. Whatever you need, you have my permission. Pete smiled. Grimly, thanks, Captain. You won't recognize this ship when I'm done with it. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his tactical officer. Amy, I need you to coordinate with all department heads. We're about to turn the horizon into something. That's part warship, part nightmare. I want every section of this ship to become a death trap. Amy nodded and started sending messages to every department on the ship. What happened next would have amazed the aliens if they could have seen it dot in the engineering sections. Pete and his team worked like men possessed. They pulled cables from the walls and rerouted power conduits. The ship's massive fusion reactors, which normally provided steady power to life support and weapons, were being connected to systems that had never been designed to handle that much. Energy. The manufacturing bays, which usually made spare parts and ammunition, suddenly came alive with new purpose. The automated machines that normally built simple components started producing something very different. Under the direction of Assistant Chief Engineer Mary Foster, the machines began creating thousands of small, spider-like robots. Each one was the size of a dinner plate and equipped with cutting tools, acid dispensers, and tiny cameras. These little guys are going to be our eyes and ears, Mary explained to her team as she watched the first batch roll off the production line. But more than that, they're going to be our teeth and claws. In the medical bay, Dr. Kevin Walsh was doing something that went against everything he had learned in medical school. He was taking the ship's medical nanobots, tiny machines designed to heal human tissue, and reprogramming them for war. These nanobots can repair damaged cells, he explained to his assistant, Nurse Janet Cole. But if we change their programming, they can also break down alien bioarmor. They'll eat through that living metal like acid through paper. Janet looked worried. Doctor, are you sure this is safe? What if these things get loose in the ship? Dr. Walsh paused in his work. Janet, if we don't do this, we'll all be slaves. By tomorrow. I'd rather take the risk. Throughout the ship, other changes were taking place. In the Marine barracks, Sergeant Major Tony Rodriguez was leading his men in a different kind of preparation. Instead of cleaning their rifles and checking their armor, they were setting traps. Listen up, Marines, Tony said to his assembled troops. We're not going to meet these aliens in open combat. We're going to make them wish they had never heard of humans. Every corridor, every room, every airlock is going to become a killing zone. The Marines worked quickly to place explosive charges, razor wire, and plasma mines throughout the ship's passages. They welded metal spikes to the walls and rigged hidden guns to fire automatically when motion sensors detected movement. Private. First Class Danny Kim was working on something special in the main hangar bay. He was setting up what looked like a normal cargo area, but it was actually a carefully planned trap. Magnetic mines were hidden under fake cargo containers. Automated turrets were built into the walls, disguised to look like normal equipment. When those aliens come through that door, Danny said to his partner, they're going to think they're walking into a storage room. Instead, they're walking into hell. Meanwhile, systems analyst Rachel Morgan was deep in the ship's computer core, working with the artificial intelligence system called Aria. Aria controlled everything from the lights to the gravity, and Rachel was teaching it to hunt. Aria, I'm uploading new combat protocols. Rachel said as her fingers flew over the keyboard. "When hostile aliens board the ship, you're not just going to monitor them. You're going to hunt them." "Understood, Rachel." Arya replied in its calm, electronic voice. "I am learning to use the ship's internal systems as weapons. Gravity control, atmosphere regulation, and environmental systems can all be turned against intruders." The aliens outside had no idea what was happening inside the human ship. Admiral Vextar watched his weapons continue to pound the horizons. Shields and assumed the humans were simply trying to survive a little longer. "Their shields are failing," he told his officers. "Prepare the boarding parties. We'll take the ship in 1 hour and begin processing the humans for transport." But inside the horizon, the transformation was nearly complete. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant was coordinating the evacuation of non-essential personnel to the ship's armored core, while the outer sections were turned into a maze of death. "All civilians and wounded personnel to Section 7 Alpha," she announced over the communication system. "All combat personnel, prepare for hostile boarding action. Remember, this is our ship, and we know every inch of it. Make the aliens pay for every step they take." Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors and saw his ship changing before his eyes. What had been a peaceful exploration vessel was becoming something dark and dangerous. The walls were lined with hidden weapons. The floors were rigged with traps, and the air itself would soon be filled with hunter-killer robots. "Sir," Amy said, approaching him with a tablet computer, "all departments report ready. The ship is armed and waiting." Jake looked at the data on the tablet. Weapon. Systems were online, traps were set, and every person on the ship knew their job. The horizon was no longer just a carrier. It had become a predator, waiting for its prey to make the mistake of coming inside. "Good," Jake said, looking out at the alien ships through a porthole. "Let them come. They want to hunt humans? Let's show them what it feels like to be the hunted." The alien ships moved closer, preparing to dock with the horizon. Admiral Vextar was confident in his victory. His forces had superior numbers and technology. What could these primitive humans possibly do against the mighty Zephyrian collective? He was about to find out. The first alien boarding pod slammed into the horizon's main hangar bay with a loud crash. The metal doors of the pod hissed open, and Admiral Vextar stepped out with 50 of his best warriors behind him. They moved in perfect formation, there, bioarmor gleaming under the hangar lights. The hangar looked normal at first glance. Large cargo containers were scattered around the deck, and work lights cast long shadows across the floor. Vextar smiled with satisfaction. The humans had not even bothered to defend their main entry point. "Spread out and secure the area," he ordered his troops in their clicking language. "The humans are probably hiding deeper in the ship like frightened children." The Zephyrian warriors moved forward confidently. Their bioarmor could stop most human weapons, and their own guns could cut through metal like paper. They had done this many times before on other ships. Chief Petty Officer Danny Kim watched them from his hiding place behind a fake control panel. He counted 50 aliens, just as they had expected. His finger hovered over a small red button, waiting for the right moment. The aliens reached the center of the hangar, exactly where Danny wanted them. They were standing on top of 20 hidden magnetic mines, with nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Danny pressed the button. The explosions came one after another, like thunder rolling across the deck. The magnetic mines detonated from below, sending pieces of metal flying in all directions. The aliens screamed as the blasts tore through their ranks. Their bioarmor, so effective against energy weapons, could not protect them from old-fashioned explosives. But that was only the beginning. Hidden turrets emerged from the walls like deadly flowers blooming. They had been disguised as normal equipment, invisible until now. The automated guns opened fire with rapid bursts, cutting down any aliens who had survived the mines. Vextar dove behind a cargo container as bullets whined overhead. Half of his warriors were already dead or wounded. This was not supposed to happen. Human ships were supposed to be easy targets. "Return fire," he shouted. "Destroy those gun turrets." The surviving aliens raised their weapons and began shooting at the hidden turrets. Their bioplasma weapons melted the metal guns one by one, but it was too late. The trap had already done its work. Suddenly, the lights went out. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across the hangar, and then even those lights began to flicker on and off. In the darkness, the aliens could hear something moving. Small clicking. Sounds like metal insects walking on the deck. The spider robots that Mary Foster had built were coming out of their hiding places. Hundreds of them poured out of air vents and storage compartments, their tiny cameras glowing like red eyes in the dark. Each robot was armed with cutting tools and acid dispensers, and they moved with frightening speed. The aliens tried to shoot the small robots, but there were too many of them. The spider machines crawled up their legs and arms, cutting through bio-armor with their spinning blades. The acid they sprayed ate through metal and flesh alike. Vextar watched in horror as his warriors were overwhelmed by the mechanical swarm. These were not soldiers fighting soldiers. This was something else entirely. Something that belonged in nightmares. He managed to reach a communication device and called his ships. "Send more boarding parties. All of them. The humans have turned their ship into a death trap." But the nightmare was just beginning. In other parts of the ship, more boarding pods were attaching to airlocks and cargo bays. Hundreds of alien warriors poured into the horizon, expecting to find frightened humans waiting to be captured. Instead, they found Hell. In Section C. Commander Steve Parker led a team of 20 humans through the maintenance tunnels that ran throughout the ship. They moved like ghosts, appearing to attack the aliens, and then disappearing before return fire could find them. "Hit them and run," Steve whispered to his team. "Don't try to fight them head on. We know this ship better than they do. Use that advantage." The humans struck from air vents, through service hatches, and from behind false walls. They used improvised weapons, welding torches, cutting tools, and explosive charges. Every attack was quick and brutal, designed to hurt the aliens and then escape before they could respond. The aliens found themselves lost in a maze of corridors that all looked the same. The ship's eye, Aria, was helping the humans by changing the lighting and even the gravity in some sections. Aliens would turn a corner and suddenly find themselves walking on the ceiling, or they would enter a room only to have the air sucked out by hidden vents. In Medical Bay 3, Dr. Kevin Walsh released his modified nanobots into the air circulation system. The tiny machines were invisible to the naked eye, but they began to eat through alien bio-armor wherever they made contact. Aliens who breathed the contaminated air found their protective suits dissolving from the inside out. Nurse Janet Cole monitored the nanobots from a safe location, watching as they spread through the ship's atmosphere. "Doctor, the nanobots are working perfectly. The alien armor is breaking down faster than we hoped." "Good," Dr. Walsh replied grimly. "Those slavers wanted to harvest us like animals. Let them see what it feels like to be the prey." The Marines, led by Sergeant Major Tony Rodriguez, had turned entire sections of the ship into killing zones. Every doorway was rigged with explosives or razor wire. Every room had hidden weapons that fired automatically when aliens entered. Aliens soon learned to fear opening any door or entering any space, but they had no choice. They were trapped inside the ship with no way to retreat, and the humans were hunting them through corridors that had become a three-dimensional battlefield. Private Danny Kim, who had survived the hangar battle, was now leading a squad through the lower decks. They moved like wolves, picking off isolated aliens and taking their weapons. The humans were outnumbered, but they were fighting on their home ground. "Remember," Danny told his squad, "every alien we take down is one less slaver in the galaxy. Make them count." Admiral Vextar found himself trapped in a storage room with only a handful of his original warriors still alive. They had been trying to reach the ship's bridge, but every corridor led to another trap, another ambush, another nightmare. His communication device crackled to life. It was one of his ship captains, calling from outside the horizon. "Admiral, what is your status? We are receiving reports of heavy casualties from all boarding teams." Vextar looked around at his remaining warriors. They were terrified, their eyes wide with fear. These were soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. "The humans," he said slowly, "they have turned their ship into a living weapon. It hunts us. The very walls want to kill us. Send no more boarding parties. Prepare to retreat." But even as he spoke, Vextar knew it might be too late. The humans had done something impossible. They had turned a routine capture operation into a slaughter. Worse than that, they had made the Zephyrians afraid. And somewhere in the darkness of the ship, Captain Jake Morrison was smiling. The aliens had come, here to hunt humans. Now they were learning what it felt like to be the hunted. Admiral Vextar pressed his back against the storage room wall and tried to contact his fleet. His hands shook as he held the communication device. Around him, only 6 of his warriors remained alive from the 50 who had entered the human ship. The rest were dead, torn apart by machines or dissolved by invisible weapons. "All ships, this is Admiral Vextar," he said into the device. "Abort the boarding operation. Repeat, abort all boarding operations immediately. Prepare to retreat from this system." The response came from Captain Crickstow on the second attack ship. "Admiral, we cannot retreat now. We have already committed 800 warriors to the boarding action. They are still fighting inside the human vessel." Vextar closed his eyes. 800 of his best soldiers were trapped inside what had become a floating tomb. The humans had not just defended their ship. They had turned it into a weapon that ate his people alive. "Listen to me carefully," he said. "Those warriors are already dead. This ship kills everything that enters it. We must leave now before the humans do something even worse." But Captain Jake Morrison had one more surprise waiting for the alien fleet. On the bridge of the horizon, Jake stood before the main display screen, watching the alien ships as they tried to decide what to do. Some were pulling away from his vessel, but others were still attached by boarding tubes, trying to rescue their trapped warriors. "Amy, are the boarding pods ready?" he asked his tactical officer. Amy smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "All pods are loaded and ready, Captain. Engineer Collins has made some very interesting modifications." Jake nodded. The plan was insane, but it might be their only chance to survive. The alien ships were faster than the horizon. If they decided to retreat, they could escape and return later with more ships. That could not be allowed to happen. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We are about to turn the hunters into the hunted. All boarding teams, prepare for deployment." In the hangar bays, something that had never been tried before was about to happen. Engineer Pete Collins had taken the Horizon's escape pods and modified them into assault vehicles. Each pod now carried a small team of humans armed with the same nightmare weapons they had used to defend their ship. Chief Petty Officer Danny Kim climbed into the first pod with 5 other Marines. They carried spider robots, acid dispensers, and small explosive charges. More importantly, they carried the knowledge of how to turn any ship into a death trap. "Remember the plan," Danny said to his team. "We get inside their ships. We cause as much damage as possible, and we made them too scared to ever attack humans again. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant was in the second pod with Dr. Kevin Walsh and a container full of modified nanobots. Their job was to introduce the tiny machines into the alien ship's air systems, where they would eat through bioarmor and electronic systems alike. "Are you sure the nanobots will work on their ships?" Lisa asked the doctor. Dr. Walsh checked his equipment. "One more time. These nanobots were designed to break down any organic material. Their ships are part machine, part living tissue. The nanobots will spread through their vessels like a disease." In total, 50 small pods launched from the Horizon's hangar bays. To the aliens, they looked like escape pods filled with humans trying to flee the battle. The Zephyrian ships moved to capture them, thinking they were about to collect valuable prisoners. They had no idea they were taking wolves into their homes. The first pod was captured by Admiral Vexstar's flagship. The aliens opened the pod, expecting to find frightened humans. Instead, Danny Kim and his team came out fighting with weapons the aliens had never seen before. The spider robots poured out of the pod like a metallic flood, crawling through the alien ship's corridors and cutting through everything they found. The aliens tried to fight back, but their bioplasma weapons were useless against such small, fast targets. Danny led his team deeper into the ship, setting explosive charges and releasing acid into the air circulation system. The alien vessel, which had seemed so powerful and advanced, began to die from the inside out. "This is for every human you've ever captured," Danny said as he planted the last charge near the ship's reactor core. On other alien vessels, similar scenes were playing out. Engineer Carl Davis and his demolitions expert Sally Tucker had taken control of an entire alien ship by introducing a computer virus into its biomechanical systems. The ship's own weapons turned on its crew, and its life support systems began producing poison instead of air. The modified nanobots spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. Dr. Walsh's tiny machines ate through bioarmor, dissolved weapon systems, and turned the aliens' own technology against them. Ships that had been hunting humans minutes before were now fighting for their own survival. Admiral Vexstar watched in horror as his fleet began to tear itself apart. Ships were exploding, others were spinning out of control, and still others were broadcasting emergency signals as their own systems attacked their crews. "What are the humans doing to us?" he asked, but no one had an answer. The truth was simple but terrifying. The humans had not just defended themselves. They had learned to fight like the aliens fought, taking prisoners and turning them into weapons. But where the aliens captured people to sell as slaves, the humans captured ships to turn into instruments of justice. In 30 minutes, the mighty Zephyrian fleet was reduced to 3 damaged ships trying desperately to escape the system. Admiral Vexstar's flagship was dying around him, its bioarmor eaten away by nanobots, and its systems failing one by one. He managed to send one final message to the Zephyrian collective before his ship's communications failed completely. "Do not attack the humans," he transmitted. "They are not prey. They are predators." They turned one ship into a nightmare that destroyed our entire fleet. They fight like demons and turn everything they touch into a weapon. Stay away from human space. Stay away from Earth. The humans are not victims. They are the thing that nightmares fear in the dark. The 3 surviving alien ships jumped to hyperspace, carrying word of their defeat across the galaxy. They would tell other species about the humans who had turned a simple cargo vessel into a floating death trap, about the people who fought with such creativity and determination that they made their enemies afraid to even approach their territory. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Horizon, watching the alien ships disappear into the darkness. His ship was damaged, but intact. More importantly, his crew was alive and free. "Captain," Amy said, approaching him with a communication device. "We're getting calls from Earth Command. They want to know what happened here." Jake took the device and smiled. "Tell them we had some visitors who thought they could hunt humans. They learned that when you corner a human being, you don't get a victim. You get something that will turn the entire universe into a hunting ground if that's what it takes to protect our people." The story of the Horizon spread throughout human space in the following months. It became a legend that parents told their children and that soldiers carried in their hearts. But more importantly, it became a warning that echoed through alien space. The galaxy had learned that humans were not prey to be hunted. They were protectors who would go to any length, fight any battle, and turn any situation to their advantage to keep their people safe. And anyone who threatened humanity would discover that humans could turn anything, even a routine patrol ship, into their worst nightmare.